All right, welcome to this explainer. I've been absolutely geeking out over one of the most fascinating mechanisms inside the human body, and I seriously cannot wait to explore this with you. Have you ever thought of your body's energy system as like a massive, highly efficient corporation? I mean, it's got all these different departments, right? The liver, the heart, the muscles, the brain, and they all need perfectly coordinated instructions just to keep the lights on and the engines running. Well, today, we're going to meet the ultimate CEO of this corporation, a biological master switch that dictates exactly how we use, burn, and store energy. Okay, let's dive into this. You know, it's pretty easy to think about food on a macro level. We eat a high-fat meal, or we start a keto diet, and we just kind of know our body starts burning fat. But how does the body actually get the memo? Like, how do we get from a piece of avocado on your plate all the way down into the microscopic nucleus of your cells to fundamentally change how your DNA is being expressed? That invisible bridge between your diet and your DNA, that is exactly what we're decoding today. So meet the CEO, PPAR. Now this stands for Peroxisome Proliferator-Activated Receptor. Honestly, you don't have to memorize that huge name, just remember what it does. PPAR is a nuclear receptor and a transcription factor, meaning it doesn't just hang out in the outer layers of the cell. No, it operates directly from the headquarters, the cell nucleus itself. And from there, it acts as the absolute master regulator, or kind of like a metabolic conductor, of how your body processes fat, creates ketones, and manages glucose. It literally commands your DNA to rewrite your metabolic blueprint based on exactly what you eat. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. Metabolism's master switch, 2. 3. PPAR subtypes, 3. System-wide regulatory network, 4. Keto diet and positive feedback, and 5. Cancer cells and the 2 faces of PPAR. Let's get into it. All right, Section 1. Metabolism's master switch. You know, before a CEO can make a massive structural change to a company, they obviously need to receive a memo telling them it's time to pivot. Well, in your body, that memo is literally dietary fat. Here is the exact step-by-step biochemical cascade for how this memo gets delivered. Step 1, you eat fats, or you fast, which causes free fatty acids to increase in your system. These fatty acids, they act as a direct signal. Step 2, they travel into the cell and directly activate PPAR right inside the nucleus. Step 3, our newly activated CEO binds directly to your DNA. And finally, Step 4, your gene expression actually changes. The genes responsible for burning fat are turned all the way up, and the genes for storing fat are turned down. Dietary fat is literally the memo that tells your cells to reprogram themselves. How wild is that? Moving right along to Section 2, meet the managers, 3 PPAR subtypes. So any good CEO knows they can't micromanage the entire globe alone, right? They need highly specialized division managers. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly the labor is divided here. We basically have 3 managers running different departments: alpha, beta/delta, and gamma. Alpha is our ketone boss, hanging out in high-energy organs like the liver and heart to really drive fat burning. Beta/delta is your athletic coach, dominating the muscles to boost exercise adaptation. And gamma is the fat cell king, ruling over adipose tissue to manage insulin sensitivity. So they each have a distinct territory, but they all report back to the master goal of energy homeostasis. Let's take a slightly closer look at each one. First up is PPARα, the ketone boss. So this manager is activated by unsaturated fatty acids and EPA. Its primary directive? To force the liver to burn fat, a process called beta oxidation, instead of just storing it. But here is absolutely the most crucial biological point. PPARα directly turns on a specific gene called HMG-CS2. And why does that matter? Because this gene produces the rate-limiting enzyme for ketogenesis. This means PPARα is the direct, literal switch that allows your body to start producing ketones for fuel. Without alpha, your ketone production would basically just stall out. Next up is the beta/delta manager. You can think of this one as your body's internal athletic coach. It works really heavily in your muscles, your heart, and your intestines. Its whole job is to make your muscles incredibly efficient at burning fat and to build up your cellular power plants, the mitochondria. Actually, it is absolutely fascinating that elite endurance runners like marathoners and ultramarathoners, they have extremely high levels of this specific PPAR beta/delta activity. It's basically the biological secret weapon for sustained exercise capacity. Finally, we have PPAR gamma, the fat cell king. This manager regulates adipogenesis, which is essentially directing the creation and function of new fat cells, and it plays a massive role in glucose homeostasis. Because it is so powerful at improving insulin sensitivity, pharmacology has actually leveraged this specific switch. The well-known diabetes drug pioglitazone is a direct PPAR gamma agonist, so it literally targets this exact metabolic manager to help diabetes patients regain control of their blood sugar. All right, Section 3, the factory floor, a system-wide regulatory network. Okay, so we've met the CEO and the 3 division managers. Let's move to cells and see how this builds into a massive systemic impact across the whole factory floor of the body. The changes across your organs are just dramatic. In the liver, PPAR halts fat storage and just ramps up fat burning and ketone production. In white fat, the fat we typically want to lose, it stimulates lipolysis, literally breaking the fat down while significantly reducing inflammation. In brown fat, it increases UCP1, driving up thermogenesis to generate body heat. And your heart? Well, your heart naturally prefers fat for fuel, and it relies heavily on high PPAR activity to keep pumping efficiently day in and day out. And our systemic tour of this metabolic engine continues. Just look at the brain benefits. Activating this network increases the brain's ability to use ketones. It lowers neuroinflammation by inhibiting NLRP3, and remarkably, it boosts BDNF, which is a protein absolutely crucial for learning and memory. Down in the muscles, it boosts glucose uptake. In the intestine, it tightens the barrier function to protect your gut. And in the pancreas, it improves mitochondrial health and insulin secretion. You see, it's a completely interconnected corporate network, all optimized for peak metabolic performance. Moving on to Section 4, the keto diet and the positive feedback loop. So, we know what the switch does, but how do our daily choices keep it turned on? Well, this is where the magic of human biology really shines. If you adopt a keto diet or practice fasting, you are setting off this exact sequence. First, the diet increases free fatty acids in your blood. Second, those fatty acids act as the key, or ligand, perfectly fitting into the PPAR-alpha switch to activate it. Third, this increases the expression of our ketone-producing gene, HMGCS2. And fourth, your liver begins pumping out the highly efficient ketone body known as BHB. You are consciously using your diet to program your genetic expression for fat burning. But oh man, it gets even better. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the coolest recent discoveries in metabolic science, a positive feedback loop. See, when BHB increases, it stimulates a hormone called FGF21. This hormone further increases fat oxidation in the body. And what happens when you increase fat oxidation? You maintain the activation of PPAR alpha. It is a self-sustaining loop. The longer you adapt to burning fat, the better your body becomes at it, because the end product, the ketones themselves, literally prime the system to keep the fat-burning engine running. Section 5, cancer cells and the 2 faces of PPAR. While PPAR is clearly a master of healthy metabolism, modern pathology shows us that powerful biological tools can sometimes be manipulated. Recent studies reveal a highly nuanced duality here. On one hand, PPAR acts as the protector. By increasing fat oxidation, it naturally reduces reactive oxygen species, or ROS, and broadly lowers cellular inflammation, which is generally very protective against tumor environments. However, on the other hand, it can become a hijacked switch. Depending on the specific type of cancer, certain malignant cells can exploit PPAR alpha, essentially using it to ramp up their own fatty acid oxidation to survive and thrive. It's a potent, objective reminder that while biological switches are incredibly powerful, they are completely context-dependent when disease enters the picture. Which brings us to our final thought. We have decoded how PPAR integrates our entire energy network. From fatty acid metabolism and ketone production to mitochondrial function and inflammation control, it is the absolute master switch of your metabolic engine. And the most empowering part of all this? The memos this switch receives are written by the food you put on your plate. Knowing that your daily diet directly controls your genetic expression all the way down in the nucleus of your cells, how will you manage your body's master switch today? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating science with me, and keep learning.